Over the leadership zoning arrangement of the National Assembly leadership positions, Governor Akeredolu calls it a skewed arrangement as major contenders meet NWC today. And President-elect Bola Tinubu jets out to Europe. Today he says he wants to meet investors and also fine-tune transition plans and policy plans away from unnecessary distractions. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloe in Abuja. Let's get straight to it and let's let you know what Bola Tinubu, the president-elect, is up to. This afternoon, he left Nigeria for Europe on a working visit. In a statement by his media aide, Tunde Rahman, he says Mr. Tinubu would use the opportunity of the trip to fine-tune the transition plans and programs as well as his policy options with some of his key aides without what he described as unnecessary pressures and distractions. So much to talk about tonight, as always. We will be looking at what is escalating so fast and degenerating within the APC. The decision of the party to zone and typecast the names of some members of the party or House of Reps and Senate to the presiding officer positions for the 10th National Assembly is causing a lot of reactions. Governor Akeredolu's called it a skewed arrangement. Now, some key members who were running for the speakership had gone to meet the NWC and are challenging. They've given their views on this matter. We'll be looking and hearing from one of the major contenders tonight for that role. And also tonight, we'll be looking at the implications of the Supreme Court judgment in Osun governorship election as delivered by the Supreme Court. What does that judgment mean? Is there anything that we need to learn based on our electoral law and perhaps the case that are in front of the whole nation and that what the debate is all about at this moment? These are the major topics tonight that we'll be chewing on. But first and foremost, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
It is the third day in the ongoing Presidential Election Tribunal proceedings at the Court of Appeal in Abuja, and today the Action People's Party withdrew its petition against the victory of the President-elect Bola Tinubu in the February 25th presidential election. Counsel to the APP, Mr. Obed Aga, announced this during the day's proceedings. The All Progressives Congress and counsel to the President-elect did not oppose the withdrawal. In the brief ruling, the chairman of the panel, Justice Samani Haruna, dismissed the suit with no cost attached. Meanwhile, the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, have filed an application asking that proceedings of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal be televised. This follows a similar application by the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. The tribunal later in the proceedings adjourned the pre-hearing session on Obi and LP's petition till May the 17th at the instance of the petitioners. Less than a month before leaving office, President Muhammadu Buhari has sent a letter to the Senate seeking approval to take a loan to the tune of $800 million from the World Bank to cushion the effects of subsidy removal. This follows the federal government's April announcement of an $800 million World Bank grant targeting 50 million vulnerable Nigerians or 10 million households as part of its subsidy palliatives measure. According to the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, the disbursement of the grant is in light of the planned subsidy removal in June of 2023. The ruling party's choice for Speaker in the 10th House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, says the decision of the party was based on his competence. At the end of a meeting with members-elect, Honorable Abbas told journalists that he would reach out to members who were aggrieved to find a point of compromise.
I assure you, all the candidates, all the contestants, will reach out to them, we will beg them, we will ask them to come on board so that we can work for the good of the institution.
Gombe State All Progressives Congress APC has asked the zonal and national secretariats to endorse the sack of Senators Muhammadu Danjuma Goje and Amos Bulus Kilawangs by their constituents for alleged anti-party activities. The Gombe State chapter of the APC made the call as its members reaffirmed the expulsion of the two senators and a member of the House of Representatives. The affected members are accused of sponsoring candidates of opposition parties at the recent general elections, an action they say adversely affected the APC's fortune at the 2023 general elections.
That the decision of cash reward of Akko local government to expel Senator Muhammadu Danjuma Goje is in line with the provisions of the party constitution, and they have followed due process.
A faction of the national leadership of the Labour Party has distanced itself from calls for an interim government, asking security operatives to beam their searchlight on certain individuals in the party, making case for an interim government. They're calling for the arrest of these persons by security agents. A factional national publicity secretary of the party, Abayomi Arabambi, at a press briefing held in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, says the call is capable of undermining the nation's democracy and breach of peace. He maintained that those asking for a halt to the proposed swearing-in of the president-elect, Bola Tinubu, are doing so for their personal interests and not the collective interest of the Labour Party.
What we should be working for is how to suddenly review our election process, so we do have a winner who will be sworn in and who everybody will rally around.
All right, then you have it, some of your political roundup stories. Before we get into our major conversation tonight, let's tell you that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, may have in their custody a former Minister of Power, Mr. Saleh Mahman, who is said to have been arrested by the Commission, with sources telling us that the former minister is being detained at the headquarters of the anti-graft agencies for an alleged 22 billion naira fraud. The arrest is said to be in connection with the Commission's ongoing investigation into alleged corruption in the execution of some power projects. Specifically, Mr. Mahman is alleged to have conspired with staff of the ministry in charge of the accounts of the Zungeru and Mambila hydroelectric power project and diverted 22 billion with the share amongst themselves. Sources telling us that investigation have also uncovered properties in Nigeria and overseas linked to the suspects, while millions of naira and United States dollars have also been recovered. This is some of the information coming on a developing story in relation to a former Minister of Power, Mr. Saleh Mahman, who we understand is perhaps facing some allegation of fraud up to the sum of about 22 billion Nigerian naira. Let's get to our conversation tonight. Some major aspirants for the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the 10th National Assembly have taken their protests to the national headquarters of the All Progressives Congress APC today in Abuja. The aspirants, which include former sitting deputy speaker, Mr. Idris Wase, some other leading aspirants, Aliyu Betara and Honorable Yusuf Gagdi, were all there, and they met with the leadership of the APC, and they spoke about their disappointment in the manner in which the party went about the zoning arrangement. The lawmakers met the national chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, alongside Senator Yellow Mishore, the national secretary of the party, and some senior members of the APC and WUC. There's a lot that is said, which I may not be able to bring everything to you, but let me allow you to listen to some portion of what has been said, specifically from the likes of Idris Wase, Betara, and Gagdi. Take a listen to them.
And I don't want to believe to this moment that the president-elect is the one behind this. I don't want to believe it. And I said to you, if you are going to notice, you have a chairman of operation. In ranking, after the leadership, he comes. You are a senator, and you know it. So if you are doing that, sir, and you are a senator too, sir, what is making you to think that you cannot go and pick material? Did you work and succeed, and you succeeded, and you announced that you are now saying you succeeded as only a person, Femi Bajamila? I said it's not done like that. We all gave you the cooperation. If it is an executive session, I will reveal to you certain things I mentioned to him. That it is because we are able to stomach a lot of things that we didn't allow the house to go on rampant. It is sacrifice, so we have sacrificed. If it is gunning for votes, we have gone to look for the votes for the party. We have worked as seriously for the party. In addition, Mr. Chairman, sir, respected leaders, we are here to protest and to appeal to you to go again to look into this matter. That what has been ushered out will not stand. Under your able leadership, sir, you fold your hands and arms and sat to allow aspirants contest election on supremacy of Nigerians through the delegates to choose whosoever they want to be the flag bearer of our party. The vice president contested. He is the closest person to Mr. President. And yet, because of democracy and because of justice in APC, delegates were allowed to choose whosoever they want to choose to run the flag of our party. Where is this principle, sir? Where has it been thrown to? Have we forgotten about the motto of our party?
We are not against our leaders. But if we should sit down and say, okay, sit among yourself and pick somebody you know you can work with, it's easy. It's easy. But the person the speaker is trying to even pick, there are some of our colleagues in the same assembly that even don't know him, sir. That's the truth. I'm not lying. Our colleagues here can testify. I've done well for the National Assembly.
With some kind of candor and respect, they spoke their mind, and they were actually speaking to those who they think they understand where the shoe pinches. Senator Yelo Mishure, a former senator. Senator Abdullah Adamu, the national chairman, a former senator. So they think that these people understand their plight. But after all said, there was a response from the national chairman. Let me allow you to listen to what Senator Abdullah Adamu said.
We have listened to you. We do not intend to open discussion now, right now with you, as the nitty-gritties of your submissions. What your yes, we agree we are going to change. Or we don't agree, we will not change. Like those of you who listened to the release from this office, we did say very clearly that we will endeavor to do more consultations so that we can carry along with us the greater number of the members of this great party. I plead with you in good conscience to give us a little time to take a good and better look at your presentation and open our ears and eyes the more to hear more and see more before we can come in fidelity with your submission.
You heard it. But let's get more insight, because it's not all everything that was said there that we could present to you tonight. Because of course now we're hearing some other reactions. We're getting reactions from the governor of Ondo State, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, who in his statement said that that arrangement is skewed. How would you have a Northwest Deputy Senate President and a Northwest Speaker of the House of Representatives? Out of the 4 leading presiding officer roles in the National Assembly, 2 are from one zone. He says Northeast and North Central, and South as well. Northeast and North Central are definitely out of the equation. So let's talk about this. One of the frontline contenders in that race for the Speaker is a member of the House of Reps, and the chair of the House Committee on Navy, and of course, a returning member from Plateau State, member of the APC, Honorable Yusuf Gagdi, joined us live here in the studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Gagdi.
Thank you, my brother. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
I saw and I watched those tape back, and I saw that some of you were very upset about it. I mean, there was a mention that there was no consultation. Really? Is that what really happened?
Yes, that was what really happened. None of us was consulted, and that is why you saw that protestation. We are not aware of anything, just like any other Nigerian. We saw it in the media platform, particularly social media. And we confirmed it when we saw the national publicity of our party come to the media and confirm that, yes, the statement generated from them. And so, haven't got that confirmation, I can confirm to you for free that there was no consultation.
So, I mean, everyone knows that this arrangement or this election is election in the hallowed chamber. Whatever politicking that goes on before you enter into that chamber in June is all but whatever happened there. What happened and what is more important is what happened in the hallowed chamber. Now, one other thing that some of you talked about is the zoning. What is in the zoning that is not sitting down well with you?
From the little statement that you caught me saying, I reminded the party of the motto of APC, which is justice, peace, and unity. From the statement of the governor of Ondo State, whom I respect so much, where is the justice? Where is the intention for peace? And where is the intention for unity? If 4 presiding officers of the National Assembly, 2 of such will be zoned to a particular geopolitical zone. Assuming that is done based on reward system, in the northern Nigeria, I've said it elsewhere, that we have 3 geopolitical zones, the northwest, the northeast, and the north central. In all of these 3, the zone that you get predominant number of Christians is not central. Look at the Muslim ticket that our party is being accused, and yet it is the same North Central that have mixture of religion that deliver better to the APC. I have my reason for saying this. In the presidential election, the North Central donated 4 states out of 6 to President-elect, our father, our leader, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The Northwest donated 2 states out of 6 or 7.
But they have more figures than you, North Central.
If it is about figure, why was the presidency zoned to the south, that part of Nigeria? Hence, the figure of vote in the north is more than that of the south, and we had a northern candidate for the presidency. It is about equity, justice, fairness. It is not about figure. It is about even the number of representation.
So, but what about the argument of the Northwesterners who say, look, we have always delivered for this party. If not for the Northwest, Bola Tinubu wouldn't have emerged.
I don't want to join issues with those advocating for that in the Northwest. If you look at the G7 group of 7 aspirants that protested and went to the National Secretariat of our party, 3 aspirants are from the Northwest. It means we are fighting for justice, equity, and fairness, not even whether you are from here or there. But again, we are not saying that party should not zone position. We are saying party should zone position. But President Muhammadu Buhari have laid a very good foundation for equity, for justice, for fairness.
What is this foundation?
The foundation is that if you look at the manner within which presidential primary election is conducted, that is the foundation for equity. His vice president was contesting. Other persons from southern Nigeria were contesting. But they zoned the presidency, haven't pronounced that the presidency should go to the north. Northern governors, whom I all respect those decisions, just like we are respecting the position of the governor of Ondo State today, said that no, in matter of fairness, in matter of justice, in matter of equity, Northerners have produced presidency for 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari. Let it shift and rotate to the southern part of Nigeria. And it shifted. In that circumstance, I know nowhere that our party and Mr. President decide to anoint a candidate among the southern candidates. Delegates were allowed to come and choose whosoever. And based on the pedigree and outstanding performance of the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the delegates of the APC decided to elect him as the flag bearer of our party. Why not the party zone in fairness? In fairness means that the North Central have 11 senators of APC, Northwest have 10 senators of APC, Northeast have 10 senators of APC, North Central have 4 states for Asiwaju Bola Tinubu in time of vote, Northwest have only 2, Northeast have 1. In the spirit of fairness, you have the vice president there. Nobody is arguing that the vice president-elect is from the Northeast. Then keep one of them. It's not even about me. Now it is about justice. It's about fairness, about equity. One of the presiding officer should be in the Northwest. Yes, as our brothers keepers. Then the other one should be in the North Central. It means that there would be a trinity of representation in times of offices that have capacity, in times of offices that Mr. President will not just come all of a sudden and say, I don't want you, I have fired you. They have now left North Central without any of the elective presiding officers, like the vice president, like the Senate president, like the deputy Senate president, like the speaker, like the deputy speaker. And all the presiding officers that are zoned to the northern Nigeria have been given to one geopolitical zone. We begin to ask ourselves, have our performance to the electing the president been belated? It's a matter of justice. I'm a representative of the people. If I don't stand to say I am not comfortable with this, if any Nigerian felt having speaker and the deputy Senate president in the Northwest is fair, then he's not a fair Nigerian.
So, I mean, the argument of those who, some of those who put this together is that how can the North Central be agitating when already the national chairman of your party is from the North Central?
A national chairman of the party represents the party. Can the national chairman of our party speak to the interests of Labour Party members within the North Central? Can he speak for the NNPP members within North Central? Can he speak for PDP members within the North Central? He can only preside over the executive working committee of APC, and his powers is limited to organizing and coordinating the activities of the party at that level. Even SGF, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, his power is limited. He's an appointee of Mr. President. We said we don't have problem with that. We have the APC party chairman, but for APC, he doesn't represent the interests of other Nigerians within the North Central or within Nigeria. So people should even not bring that. What we are saying is the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, can stand for the interests of the Northwest. He is elected. He can speak his mind in as much as he is speaking the mind of the people of Northwest.
So are you advocating? What are you advocating for the North Central? Is it the speaker?
If I am contesting for the speaker. I am a Nigerian. I am not selfish. I'm advocating that let there be fairness. The two presiding officers cannot be domiciled in one geopolitical zone. One. Even if it is the Deputy Senate President that will be given to North Central, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Because Nigeria is not about me. It's about the country. It's about the unity of the country.
Look at how the diagram looks after your party put up the information, and this is what it looks like. So you have Bola Tinubu from Southwest, Kashim Shettima, Vice President-elect from the Northeast, then Goswe Akpabio from South-South, and Barau Jibrin from the Northwest, Kano State, the Deputy Senate President, and Tajuddin Abbas, Northwest, from the Speaker, and Deputy Speaker from the Southeast, Ben Kalu. In all of these, the only one you have an issue with right now is the two positions going to the Northwest.
This is not the only one I have an issue with. It's the only one that all Nigerians have an issue with. How can you have representation in all the geopolitical zone except one that have done well for the party?
So your party got it wrong on this note?
Yes. The North Central is not represented there. And the North Central have 5 state governors. 5. We won 5 states. In addition to the fact that from 2015 till date, there is none of the 6 states in the North Central that have not produced 2-time governor for the APC. At one time or another, North Central Senatorial District, not Central Geopolitical Zone, have had 8 years of APC administration from 2015 till date. Is that a zone that you will say you will not zone anything to?
So what do you say to those who say, I mean, North Central has had, North Central and the Southeast in particular, had a very, very good share of leading the National Assembly. You've had David Mark, who ran the affairs of the Senate for 2 different terms. You've had the likes of Ike Ekweremadu, who was Deputy Senate President for 12 years. You've had Bukola Saraki, who was the Senate President from the same Northeast Central for 4 years. And you've had 5 different Senate, just a moment, 5 different Senate presidents from the different 5 states of the Southeast as Senate President. So there are those who say, historically speaking, if you consider history, that the North Central and the Southeast have had a very good share.
You're asking the wrong person this question, because at the risk of sounding proud, I know a little bit about Nigerian political history. What about the Northwest that have produced Yar'Adua and produced Muhammadu Buhari? Has anybody said that don't zone anything to them because consecutively, within the span of 16 years, they have ruled Nigeria for over 10 years? How old was Yar'Adua as a president of Nigeria? Plus Buhari's presidency of 8 years. Put them together, that is #1 seat of Nigeria, Shehu. For God's sake, does anybody say, why, if history should be considered, in the dimension that you have put to me, where is the fairness to warrant even zoning anything to the Northwest, if going by the antecedent of history, if we are to talk history? These are zones that have produced presidents, elected presidents. Forget about the military presidents. And nobody say, Yar'Adua was a president from Northwest. Buhari is a serving president from Northwest for 8 years. Therefore, don't zone anything to them. I don't think when you are taking those consideration, you should look at the past. Look at the present. What do you have at hand? How do you share it to ensure that you have symbolizes the motto of our party, which is justice? How do you do it in such a way that you will give sense of belonging to the citizen of this country? Mind you, it's not even about our party. Now, National Assembly is not for APC. It's for PDP, it's for NNPP, it's for Labour, it's for young YPP, and what have you. They all have representation. Look at the composition. How many numbers does APC have?
What does it?
170
what is the implication of your party's decision?
The implication is that it is very, very difficult for us to realize what the party have released out.
So with this, your party may not be able to.
It's not possible.
With the threat of what they call the larger or the greater majority, the opposition political parties coming together, and they are threatened that in the House they will also produce Speaker and Deputy Speaker.
In the first instance, aside of that threat, instead of taking a fair decision that will help coordinate the APC members together and equally lobby other political parties to come and join hands with APC to have the principal officer's position, you have taken the decision that is hurting even the APC members themselves in the area of justice, equity, and fairness. In this circumstance, I cannot guarantee you that even the APC members are going to vote for, even myself. I'm not going to support what is done. I'm not going to do it.
But are you a party man?
I'm a party man. But the interest of Nigeria superintend over the interest of my party. But and more so,
why do you
so that when the decision of my party seems to negate the principle of the party itself, I cannot be blamed for deciding to save the supremacy of the motto of my party. If tomorrow I went to the floor and I decided not to support this act of injustice, meted particularly to the people of my zone, after National Assembly, I have a zone to go back to, North Central. I have a state to go back to, Plateau. If you take decision and look at today without looking at tomorrow, what do you think, what history am I laying to my children? How will people refer to them? That your father have come to the TV to launch his manifesto and advocate that speakership should go to North Central, being the only zone that from 2019 have not produced speakership, and not Northwest that have produced 4 speakers from 1999 till date, and all of a sudden they see me turning around to campaign for the same Northwest to produce the 5th speaker against the North Central that have not produced one.
What happened to the
history
concept
will
of party supremacy?
Concept of party, what happened to the concept of the constitution of the party that is built on justice, peace, and unity?
What would you do in this regard?
I have told the party that the decision is anti-party role. I have told them today.
So what do you think the party can do to correct this?
They say they are consulting. We should give them time. You have heard from the national...
What does this come to you? I mean, because I understand that you also have consulted widely. And this decision of the party, they said it was in consultation with Bola Tinubu and other stakeholders of the party. It does look to me that it's almost cast in stone. Already we see Tajuddin Abbas meeting and consulting other people and begging them.
Have you seen us not meeting? This G7, group of 7, we are equally meeting, we are traveling, we are consulting, we are unveiling manifestos, we are launching our campaigns on daily basis. The Deputy Speaker is doing his own on Friday. Honorable Jaji, who was equally with us in the party secretariat, is doing his own on Wednesday. We are meeting members elect, we are campaigning, because this election is not going to be done at the APC National Secretariat. It's going to be done at the Hallowed Chamber of the National Assembly.
So this week,
and it's a contest. If we win, fine. If we do not win, we congratulate the person that win, all things being equal. That doesn't stop anybody from saying, Gagdi, don't go and represent, don't sit at that seat that is meant for the people of
Do you see a Dogara situation happening now?
Very obviously, worse than Dogara situation. Because in Dogara circumstance, the position, the representation of APC at that time was even higher. There was a comfortable majority in that circumstance. Let alone this circumstance, we don't have comfortable majority. I'm telling you, in Dogara situation, there was no even coalition of aspirants that are coming together to say, no, we are against this, we don't like this. But in this circumstance, me, I'm not fighting an individual. I'm only fighting for justice. I'm only saying that justice must be done. In the course of this, I have no problem with anybody.
The caucus of the APC in the National Assembly from the North Central, they've released a communique. And that part of that communique, I mean, you can see a list of members of the APC from the North Central region agitating and saying that this is injustice and it will not stand. On a final note, where does your party go from here? Do you see, and if you are sending out a warning, this is perhaps one thing that Bola Tinubu, a test to his political sagacity, what warning will he be sending out? But Femba Gabian Mila is your good friend. What are the kind of things you'll be telling them tonight?
He is my boss, not only my good friend, he's still the speaker, and I so much respect. I will not join issues with him. I believe the president-elect is a Democrat. And I believe he is not aware of most of these things happening. I am a stakeholder in this process. By the way, I'm an aspirant. I look forward to when Mr. President-elect will sit with some of us. He will know a lot of things that he didn't know prior to this time. And APC is democracy. And Asuwaju Ahmed Tinubu is the father of all. I am very optimistic that this is not a problem. We are only saying that there is injustice. I'm sure he will look back, sit with us, and sit with the members of the APC and consult widely for a fair and just decision to be taken in the collective interest of everybody in the party.
Honorable Yusuf Gagdi, one of the front-line aspirants for the speakership of the 10th National Assembly and the chair of the House Committee on the Navy. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you, my brother.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll take a break, everyone, and when we come back, we analyze for you the Supreme Court position on Osun State governorship election, which has an implication on our electoral law, on our elections, and the future debate over the beavers and all other gamut of our electoral process. Stay with me, everyone, to be giving you these perspectives. So much, everyone, and welcome back. The Supreme Court yesterday upheld the judgment of the Court of Appeal in the case involving Ademola Adeleke, the governor of Osun State, and Boyega Oyetola. The APC'S court affirmed Adeleke as a duly elected governor of the state, stating that it is glaring. This is part of some of the statements made by the lead judge in that proceeding. He says it is glaring that the appellants could not prove overvoting. He also went further to say it is the record in the beavers machines that can prove the number of accredited voters in a polling unit and nothing else. Let's make sense of it. Because, of course, you know Now, apart from the bodies of our laws, the Constitution, the electoral law, whatever is being said, especially by the Supreme Court, is law also. It becomes a precedent and is very relevant. And so, what are the implications of the Supreme Court judgment of yesterday? Don't forget, this is the very first test of the Electoral Law 2022, and it has a huge implication. Let's get talking. I have someone with a depth of experience, not only of knowledge, but of understanding and history of understanding of institution, Mr. Oluwole Osazi Uze, a very senior lawyer and a former director of voter education with INEC. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
You came to mind yesterday when that Supreme Court judgment was coming on, and I thought, wow, we had a lot of conversation about the electoral law and what it means for our future elections, especially 2023 elections, without having to talk about what is happening at the tribunal, because the judgment of yesterday has a huge implication of this particular matter. But let's dwell on what we know and the facts of what has been delivered. This is, we do not have the details of the Supreme Court judgment just yet.
It's not yet out.
But we can extrapolate. Based on what my Lord Justice Agim said yesterday, he was the lead judge, and let's look at what he said. These are some of the excerpts, and I have some quotes from him. He says, it is glaring that the appellants could not prove overvoting.
Right.
That's one of those statements. He also said in that judgment, it is the record in the Beavers machines that can prove the number of accredited voters in a polling unit and nothing else. He also said, the appellant had a primary burden to prove the fact asserted by them in their petition. It is obvious that the appellant's case collapsed. He also said, no evidence was adduced to prove the case of forgery against Adeleke. In the absence of such evidence, the allegation is not proved beyond reasonable doubt. He went further to say that the entire proceedings of the tribunal remain a nullity. He now affirms that on the whole, this appeal fails and it is hereby dismissed. And I dare say the appeal judgment, the Court of Appeal judgment was upheld, which means that there is a relevance of the Court of Appeal judgment, which I've tried to summarize tonight, which we would like you to give perspectives on. But give me an understanding. Some of the statements from the learned judge, honorable judges yesterday, it was a unanimous one from all of the 5 of them.
Correct, it was. We have to be careful when we are doing an analysis of the judgment because the full reasons for the judgment have not been released yet. But we've spoken to people who were in the court, in the Supreme Court, and who listened to the judgment and who took some notes. So let people know that we are speaking contextually and from what we heard and the records that we have for now in the public domain. Yes, I like the excerpts that you have taken out of that leading judgment. For example, let's take this. It's glaring that the appellants could not prove overvoting. Now, the duty of the petitioner, it's the duty of the petitioner, and the burden rests on the petitioner to prove his case in the tribunal. If he fails to prove the case, then obviously the election will stand. So he must discharge that burden. And from what was available, that burden was not discharged. Let's take overvoting, for example. They relied on certain exhibits which are certified true copies of the download from the IREV. But the minority judgment in the tribunal said, look, the Beavers machines are here. Rather than take extracts from another platform, let us look at the Beavers machines. It's the Beavers machines that will determine whether there's overvoting or not. Don't forget the definition of overvoting, where the total number of accredited voters, the total number of votes exceeds the total number of accredited voters. That was one of the changes in the new Electoral Act, as we had discussed severally on your program. So having a look at it, the Beavers machine accredits people. It is the device you use for accreditation. So, and automatically it stores the number of people it has accredited. Unfortunately, the majority of the tribunal, now the null judgment, said, look, we will look at these certified true copies given by INEC to the APC as it was that time. They said, no, you shouldn't do that when the machine itself, which is the primary evidence, is before the tribunal. Use that machine. That is the only one that can tell us. Because INEC argued that, well, by the time they uploaded these things, some data was lost, it has not been synchronized. I think that's a word that was used, it has not been synchronized. But good, deal away with those things. Let us see the Beavers machines, the original machines which did the recording. you look at them and look at the total number of accredited voters in those machines. Did the votes exceed the total number accredited? Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal said no, it did not, and Supreme Court have validated that judgment of the Court of Appeal, and rightly so. If we must state that.
As a rider to that,
Yes.
Mr. Osasiwuzi, this is what the Supreme Court said.
Yes.
It is a record in the beavers machines that can prove the number of accredited voters in a polling unit and nothing else.
Absolutely. That is what the Electoral Act.
Where does it leave IREV?
Look, IREV does not give you the total number of accredited voters. IREV gives you the results. Admittedly, the presiding officer takes the total number of accredited voters that he reads from the beavers and endorses it in the IREV. It's a human thing. Whereas the beavers automatically records the total number of accredited voters. It automatically accredits people and records the total numbers. It does not record votes, but the votes as manually filled in is stored in the beavers and it uploads to the IREV. So it's complementary. What you see in the IREV as the total number of accredited voters should correspond with the total number of accredited voters as recorded automatically by the beavers machine.
And that is also prevailing in the third prayer in the Court of Appeal judgment.
Yes.
And so this is because basically the Supreme Court upheld the position of the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
And part of the second prayer, the pleading at the Court of Appeal, which Adeleke went to appeal, was that on the issue 3, the question that arose for consideration is whether exhibits SCH1, SCH2, 3, and BVR, that is certified true copies of the forms EC8, A, B, C, D, and E, ought to have been admitted in view of the fact that the receipt issue for their certification possessed the said certification. The court found and held that while the payment of legal fees and evidence of same is an integral part of the certification process, the fact that the receipt of payment was only issued after the certification does not ipso facto render the said public document inadmissible. Issue 3 resolved against the appellant. Can you make sense of that for us?
Well, I think the issue was raised. There was a certification of these result sheets. Yes, a certification, and it was tendered in evidence. Now, when you tender evidence these days, when you tender a certified true copy, you should also show evidence that you paid for the certification of those documents as approved by the issuing authority. So INEC charges you, it's a minimum fee, INEC charges you for certification of each document. Now, when you try to tender these two, you must tender the two together. You must tender the certified true copy of the document you certified as well as the receipt, evidence of payment. So the heavy weather was made of the fact that, the receipts came after the certification, whereas it should precede certification. It should pay before the thing is certified. In practice, different institutions do things differently. What is important is that the certification was paid for.
So it's a procedural issue.
It's a procedural issue. It didn't affect the substance. But they were trying to make it an issue of admissibility. But the Supreme Court said no. You as long as there's evidence that has been paid for, whether it postdated or predated, that should not make too much of it. It's a technical procedural issue. All we need is that evidence that yes, you applied for certification, you paid for that certification, money went into government coffers, and this is the document that was certified for you.
Thank you for clearing that with us.
Yes.
So let's go to this issue 5, which is part of the issue of overvoting that you talked about.
Yes.
This was a position of the Court of Appeal, upheld by the Supreme Court, as was declared yesterday. And basically what you said, I mean, the issue is 5 and 7 were considered together, and the issues raised were whether the petitioners, now respondents, proved overvoting, and whether the trial tribunal was right to have relied on the table supplied by the petitioners to reach a verdict that they provided of overvoting. The Court of Appeal found and held that on the issue of overvoting, the information on the physical beavers machine supersedes that of the back-end report issued by INEC and which the petitioners relied on. The penultimate court also found that Section 137 of the Electoral Act does not displace the need for the petitioner to still call oral evidence of polling unit agents who operated beavers machines in the disputed unit. It went further to say the Court of Appeal ultimately found that the tribunal was wrong to have reached a conclusion on overvoting based on the content of the table presented by the petitioner and also exhibit VVR, which ought to have been demonstrated in open court. Issues 5 and 7 were therefore resolved and in favor of the appellant. That's Senator Adeleke.
Yes, correct. Again, these are some technical procedural issues which I'm happy you're bringing them to the fore. It has to be broken down so that people understand this issue. You can have a fantastic case, but if you don't go by these procedural steps, then you might have problems in the tribunal. It can apply to either the petitioner or the respondent. Now, the petitioners came to court. Yotola came to court and they look, no, we have an expert, and this expert has analyzed all the data and presented a table of the data. And the tribunal fell into error in relying heavily on that table, which in one sense, the lawyers will understand this is secondary evidence. It was an extrapolated from something else, an extract from another, from the beavers, from the reports and things. They say, no, the beavers machine is there. Let us see the printout from the beavers machines. Rather than rely on this so-called experts, we or anybody can look at the beavers machines, record the numbers that is there. And it's not enough for you to come and tender these things. People who operated the beavers have to be there. Documents, to an extent, speak for themselves. But you need to tie those documents. You need some oral evidence to hang those documents and say, look, this is this. We were at this polling unit and this happened, that happened. Some lawyers felt that the new Section 137 of the Evidence Act had relieved witnesses of the burden, or petitioners or respondents of the burden of proving things once you just tender those documents. But from the decisions of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, the documents don't necessarily speak for themselves. There must be some oral evidence tying them and explaining their contents. They don't always speak for themselves. That is my understanding of that part of the judgment.
If you look at all of about the 8 prayers that was taken to the Court of Appeal, the issue of the beavers is very evident. There's a big lesson that all of us need to learn from the position of the Supreme Court on this issue of beavers, and it takes me right back into the statement, which for me it's of course the issue of this is it. Yes, this is it. It is a record in the beavers machine that can prove the number of accredited voters in the polling unit and nothing else. What lesson do you think everyone, politicians, lawyers, need to avert their mind to, and in fact Nigerians at large, about the electoral law and our election from this?
Well, the Electoral Act, one of the innovations was that you use the smart card reader or any other technological device, and hanging on that any other technology device, INEC introduced the beavers. Now, the beavers, what it does is record the total number of accredits you, of course. And in the process of accrediting you, either through your facial recognition or through your fingerprints, it records it that, look, Mr. Sean has come to vote. That is 1. If Mr. Ozi comes, that's 2. If Mr. David comes, that's 3. It records the total number of people who have come for accreditation. Having come for accreditation, the ballots cannot exceed, not even by 1. If it exceeds by 1, the act says, no, go back, there's something wrong, because automatically the beavers has recorded and stored this thing. So don't give any chat by anybody else. Sometimes the back end might be faulty. The main thing is that it is this machine that has recorded these things. Each machine for each polling unit, bring them. And in Osun, they brought them to the tribunal.
If I prove over voting, what happens?
Now, first of all, before you get to that stage, if INEC realizes, the president officer realizes there has been overvoting, when he's entering the results, because first of all, the first thing he does, both the president and the collection officer, the first thing is to look at the, go back to the beavers machine, record the total number of accredited voters first, and then you count the ballot papers. If the ballot papers exceed, the votes exceed, you cancel that result. And if it has a bearing on, ultimately, on the overall results, then you go back and conduct elections.
At what point do you reconcile the record on the beavers? Because, I mean, it's understandable that there are some times that all of what is on the beavers does not go up, or is not fully recorded, or is not reconciled with INEC owns record because of internet and connection issues.
Yeah, but first of all, it records it there.
Physically speaking.
Physically, it records it there. So that's the first port of call. The presiding officer ought to check that, because he's going to take the number accredited by the beavers and endorse it into the ECHA, into the result sheet. That's the first thing he does. He will ensure it does that. Total number of accredited voters, there's a column for that. He records it there. The agents have to take note of that, party agents, and also at the first and every stage of collation. At the collation center, the first thing the returning of the collation officer does is to look at the beavers and confirm, that's what the act says, confirm that the total number of accredited voters as recorded by the beavers and transmitted is correct. So it physically checks the beavers and confirms the correctness before going into the scores and confirming that with the IREV. It's the scores you confirm with the IREV, the total number of registered voters you confirm from the beavers itself.
Mr. Oluwole, tonight, if there's something that we have learned from the Supreme Court's judgment, which in some way, technically and fundamentally, impacts on the electoral law and our electoral process, what would that be?
The importance of the beavers in the process, the importance of technology in the process. And this has a bearing on the three, I think, presidential petitions out of the LP, Labour Party, or the PDP, and I think the APM, so the three remaining petitions. It has a bearing in that regards. But the twist in the presidential petitions now is the fact that the IREV, which was not an issue in this one. So in certain regards, out of the 8 issues, I think 2 or 3 have bearing on not just the presidential, but of course on the overall electoral process and all the petitions that have been filed in this matter. The importance is central. That look, you must be careful about this central role that the beavers plays. And the Electoral Act has come. This is the first time Supreme Court has put a stamp on some of the novel provisions of the Act. So the lawyers are going to sit down, study the judgment. We hope the judgment comes in the next few days, the full judgment. Yeah. We're going to study, dissect it, and see what bearing it has on all the cases and going forward on the operations of the Electoral Act.
I bet you that my Lord Justice, judges at the Court of Appeal will also be studying, all the lawyers will be studying to become something like an appendix to the electoral law for almost everyone. And in fact, eyes will be on some of these statements, which should now be very fundamental and crucial going forward into our electoral process. Absolutely. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Oluwole Osaziuzi, a very senior lawyer and the former director of voter education. You've been a lot of former. Well,
you brought me here to discuss law, so former director of legal services.
Legal services also. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that you've gotten some perspectives on all of these issues, which we brought for you, for your understanding, at least for you to make your impactful decision as a citizen. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7. I'm sure Akimbale. God bless you.